Hey guys, how's it going? So in the last episode, I think it was episode 1.5, we went through the config and how to use it. So we created a boolean, string, double, integer. And I think episode 1, we went through a simple ping command that differentiates between player and console, which was pretty cool, but it's also really simple. So I think for this episode, we're going to create a setspawn and a spawn command. So first things first, we're just gonna hop right in actually. So I'm gonna create a new Java class. And we're gonna set this as a setspawn command. And we're gonna implement command executor. And then implement the methods in there and return true. Over here, I'm gonna do a to-do logic / set spawn. So I know we've got to come back to it eventually. All right. So we're gonna go into the config and we're gonna say spawn. Gonna have an x coordinate. We'll set this as 0 for now. Y coordinate 0. Z coordinate 0. Gonna have yaw, which 0 as well, and pitch, which is also 0. And then we're gonna have a boolean over here, set false. So when they run the setspawn command, we're gonna set that boolean to true. Okay. So the logic for the setspawn command is pretty simple, I think, but it does have to do a lot with config files. So I can go over each line for you, but it's also going to be posted in the GitHub, so you can go look at it there as well. So first thing we got to do, we have to get the location of the player, so we got to make sure it's a player first. So if the sender is the instance of a player, whoops, player equals casting sender to a player. Oh god, can't type today. Right, and I just imported in player and all the errors are cleared. Next, we need the location of the player. Location equals player.getLocation. Alright, so this we did the same thing in the ping command. We got if the sender is an instance of a player. So if the sender is a player, and then we got the player over here by using the player object, casting it to a variable named player, that's equal to sender. And sender is normally a command sender, but we want it as a player this time. So with the brackets here saying, letting the program know that the sender is a player, which is the same thing what we did here. And location, simple. We got the object location, variable name location from the player.getLocation, which is a method in player. We also need to get the config file. So we can open up the file configuration. That's what the object is called. I call it config equals tutorial, get plugin, tutorial.class. So this is going to throw an error because this is an instance of our main class. So once we pull this, right, that's the same thing as being in here. But we want an we want an instance of it in order to call the getConfig method, because the getConfig method is only right here. So if I type in getConfig, getConfig, it's right here, right? So we want this method to point to here and run this config method. So we're going to go to the setspawn command, and right here we can do .getConfig, and then all the errors clear. So now when they do the setspawn, we want to set the location of the player as the spawn. So we can do config.set spawn.x location.getX. Let's go back into our config.yml, and as you can see, I did spawn.x. So we're going to go to the config.yml, and you see it's going to skip all of this stuff, search for spawn, that's spawn, and then the dot is going to come in. So that dot means tab one over. So we're going to tab one over, and it's going to search for X, and it's going to set the X to whatever location our player is, because we're using the player.getLocation, and we're getting the X coordinate of the player. We can do that for the X, Y, Z, pitch, and yaw. So we can. I'm just going to copy this a bunch of times. X, Y, Z, pitch, yaw. Z. Oh, we'll do yaw. Pitch. I only switched it around because it's like that in the config. We could keep it the other way if you want. Change these as well. This is get yaw and get pitch. So yaw and pitch is basically positioning the player's head. So whatever position this player is looking, it'll position the player's head that way too. So if the player's looking straight at the ground when doing /spawn, everyone who does /spawn will spawn with their head looking straight at the ground. And don't forget that once we set it, we gotta do config.set spawn.set true. And that's it for the setspawn command. Oh, don't forget config.save. Whoops. I think we gotta get an instance of our main class. So let's do our plugin name. I'm gonna call it main. So I'll get plugin tutorial.class, just like that. And we're gonna replace this with, actually, let's call it plugin, because that makes more sense. So, there we go. So plugin.getConfig. Over here, we're gonna go, oops, plugin.saveConfig. Gonna run that just so all these values we set saves into our config. And we're gonna create a new package. Actually, remember, new package. We'll create spawn. I'm just gonna drop the setspawn command in there just so it looks more tidy. Then in the spawn package, we're gonna create a new command called spawn command. I'm just adding it to the GitHub there so you guys can see it after. Okay, let's go back to the setspawn command really fast. And then if player, oops, we only clarify player right here. So we're gonna if player has permission, let's call it tutorial.setspawn. That's the only time we run all of this. Otherwise, player dot send message component dot text. Oops, that's not in Spigot yet. Sorry. We're gonna do player dot send message chat color dot red. No permission. There you go. So this is for a Spigot plugin. I think Paper has these new components that are really cool, and I'll go over next time or in a 0.5 episode. They're really cool to use, so we can go over those and the Adventure API. So that's it. So if the player has the permission, it'll run all of this. If it doesn't, it'll say you do not have permission. All right, perfect. And let's just make sure that else sender.send message cannot be run from console, just in case the console runs it. Right, there you go. And let's go back to tutorial and let's register the command. Set spawn set executor new set spawn command. And while we're at it, let's register the spawn command as well. Spawn set executor new spawn command. Just like that. It's throwing an error right now because we haven't actually created it. And so we're going to go into the plugin YML as well. Spawn. Description teleports you to spawn, and set spawn sets the spawn for the server. Perfect. So now we have the set spawn and the spawn command. So let's go to the spawn command now, and we're going to implement command executor as well. implement all those methods in, and we're going to return true. Nice. And we're going to do the same thing if sender is an instance of a player. So you should really get this drilled into your head because we're going to be using it a lot just to make sure that the player is sending the command. Player equals player sender. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get all those values from the config itself. So we're going to grab the config again. So file configuration. Actually, let's get the plugin first. Plugin. Yeah, plugin. Just like that. Actually, no. Sorry, I'm thinking about something else. Tutorial plugin equals tutorial.getPlugin tutorial.class. There you go. And now we're going to get each value. So double x equals, hold on, let's get the config. File configuration config equals plugin.getConfig, and then double x equals config.getDouble spawn.x. So that's going to go straight here, go to spawn.x and get this value. But we'll only do it if the config is set. So let's make sure we get that. So boolean spawn set equals config dot get boolean spawn dot set. So if the spawn is set, then we'll run all of this. Otherwise, or else, player dot send message chat color dot red spawn has not been set. With a double x, double y, get double spawn dot y. Whoops. Then we're going to get another double c equals get double spawn dot c. Double ya equals config dot get double spawn dot ya. Double pitch equals config dot get double spawn dot pitch. This is the same thing as setting them, except for instead of setting them, we're going to get them, right? And now we need to create a location. Location spawn location equals new location. So this is just creating a new location. So inside here, it takes a world. So the world is going to be the player's world. Sorry, it's going to be the spawn world. So we're going to go back to the setspawn command and let's set the world. Config.set spawn.world, and I'm going to set it to location.get world get UID. Actually, we'll get the name. Get name. Just like that, and we'll hover over this. Object required not null. I'm just gonna put that in just so it doesn't throw any errors. This would spawn. No. Okay. Go back here. New location, and we're gonna use. We're gonna get the string, just world, or world name equals config dot get string spawn dot world. There you go. And config dot get. Oops. So bucket dot get world name. And now it takes an x, y, and z. So we'll put in our x, y, and z from our things. And it takes two floats. So I'm going to do float. This is the yaw. And the float, which is the pitch. There you go. No errors. We got a warning here. Make sure the world name is not null. Make sure it's not null there. Go into our config. We'll put down a world option here. We'll name it world for now. Or we'll name it null so we know it works when it's set the world. And there we go. Created the new location. Now all we gotta do is teleport the player to the location. But I want to teleport the player to the location 5 seconds after if the player hasn't moved. So let's do that. And we're going to do that with something called a scheduler. So we're going to get a scheduler. And we're going to run task later. And it takes a plugin. And it takes a runnable. So we can replace it with a lambda right now. So we can do open bracket, close bracket. And then make an arrow with a hyphen and a symbol like that. And then open curly and close curly. And then put just throwing an error. Oh, it won't let me use a runnable. So put that there. We're just gonna type in new runnable, I guess. There you go. And then over here, we're gonna create. It needs how long after it's gonna run. So we want to say 5 seconds. So 20 ticks. So 20 ticks in Minecraft is 1 second. So we're gonna put 20 ticks times 5, which is going to be 5 seconds. There we go. And now we can run our code in here. Actually, let's get the location of the player right here. So we have the location of the player actually. So I'm going to call this AX equals player dot get location get x double AY equals player get location dot get y and double AC dot get location dot get z. It's like that, right? And that's going to be the location of the player before he runs the command, right? And then we're going to get it 5 seconds later to make sure it hasn't moved. So if AX equals player dot get location dot get x, and that's an and symbol, and AY is equal to player dot get location dot get y, and AZ is equal to player dot get location dot get z. Then I'm going to player dot teleport to spawn location. Otherwise, we're going to say player dot send message chat color dot red. You moved, so you weren't teleported. Make that a capital right there. All right, and it says replace with lambda, even though it threw an error last time I did it. Whatever. Okay, so let's go through what this does. Start at the beginning here. If the sender is an instance of a player, it'll cast the player to a sender. We know how that works. And we're going to get the instance of our plugin. So we got our plugin right there. And then we'll get the file configuration. We'll get the config from that plugin. So plugin.getConfig. And we're going to get the spawn set. So if the spawn is set, if the player actually ran set spawn before. So if it's set, then it'll teleport the player to the spawn, right? We only want that. So we have the X, we get the X from the config, we get the Y from the config, we get the Z from the config, get the yaw from the config, get the pitch from the config, and we get the world that the players did /set spawn in. Make sure we set that here. Set spawn.world, location.getWorld name, perfect. And then we make sure the world name isn't null. That's just to stop the error from happening here. And we get the spawn location. Location consists of a world, a world, X, Y, Z, a float, So yaw is a float. So we cast just like how we casted player to sender, we casted yaw to a float. We casted pitch to a float. And then we want to make sure the player stays in the same position. So we're going to get the player's location right now. As soon as he ran the command, we're going to get his location. Right, we got his location. Perfect. Next, we're going to open a scheduler. So the scheduler is just going to he's going to run the task 5 seconds after I called it. So it's going to check, is AX, we got the location 5 seconds later, is the player's X both the same? Perfect. Is the Y the same? Perfect. Is the Z the same? Perfect. Okay, so then teleport the player to the spawn location. If any of these are different, send the message to the player, you moved, so you weren't teleported. Pretty simple. And then up here, actually, we can send a message to the player to let them know not to move. Oops, chat color dot yellow. Oh, we'll do it red for do not move. Not move. And then plus yellow. Oops. You teleported in 5 seconds. Just like that. And now we can compile the plugin. Make sure there's no errors. Perfect. I'm going to post it to the GitHub really fast. Episode 2. 5 warnings and 1 to do. Right, because the set executor may produce null pointer exceptions. Let's check the to do. Set logic first. Okay, we finished this already. So we can close that, commit and push. 5 warnings, doesn't matter, commit and push anyway. That to the GitHub, just like that. Nice, so the command, so let's put this in the server and see if it works. Okay, so we got the server started. Let me log in to localhost. Whoops, guess not. I was doing some testing to make sure it worked before giving it to you guys. So hit start, server's running now. Perfect, and the server is done. Let me just open the folder for it really fast. Alright, so we have the server. Let's open the plugins folder. Let's open the config.yml file. And as you can see, world is null, 0, 0, 0, 0. Everything's working as tested. So we can close that. And then we'll join our server with localhost. And we did it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, oops, creative, and I'm actually going to de-op myself. So now I'm going to do /setspawn. No permissions. That works beautifully. And so let me op myself again. There you go. And if I'm going to set the spawn. I'll put a gold block so we know it's the spawn. Right there. Do set spawn. And I'm going to be looking down like this. Set spawn. Oh, we didn't add a confirmation message to see if we set spawn, but we set it right there. So should work. I'm going to run all the way over here. And type in the /spawn method. Do not move. You'll be teleported in 5 seconds. We wait 5 seconds, and bam, we teleported and we're facing down. So now let's take a look at the config.yml and see what changed. So before, these were all zeros, this was null. Now we set config set true. Everything is set perfectly. But if we set this to false, right, and we save it, and we do /spawn, oh, it will work. Sorry, we gotta do config /reload. Did I enable the command? Let's make sure I did enable the command. Yes, I did. It's /tutorial reload. So now we reloaded the config. Now if you do /spawn, the spawn has not been set because we set, where did I put it? Why did I close it? We set this to false, but now we set it to true again. File, save. And we do the same tutorial reload / spawn. Because it's true, it'll work. So do not move, you'll be teleported in 5 seconds. There you go. But if we do move, we're gonna run around like this. You moved, so you weren't teleported. Perfect. Everything works. So thanks for watching, and I should be releasing videos a lot more smoothly now, so keep your eyes open for that. And good luck in your coding. Bye guys.